I wanted to do a video about something that I dreamt of again, and it's not a thing that's trending for me. I don't understand. I don't know if it's a Jewish holiday. I don't understand. But right before I woke up, I had this horrible dream. I was happy when I forgot it 5 minutes later, and then like hours later, I remembered it, and then I prayed, should I go ahead and say the dream? It's very bizarre. It's really, and not to say that I'm not working through some deep stuff right now, but I'll share it because if it's synchronizing with other Christians, if there's a synchronicity happening, if the Holy Spirit's trying to say something, I just want to put it out there. And the dream is a group of people and I, for some reason, were being brought through these different, I guess, room situations. It seemed like they were outside, seemed like some places were under tents. It seemed like an indoor outdoor thing. And some of these places represented crimes, maybe sins, and all the sins and crimes that were happening in this room, all in these rooms, all matched. So then we go room to room. The last room, though, which was outside, and there was a tent, just like all the other rooms, was the people were actually still there. They weren't empty. They weren't like not live, or they weren't crime scenes, air quotes, that were dead. They were actually still active, still happening. And the people thought we were them, like we were with them. So they didn't really hesitate, and maybe they didn't care. Maybe there was pride in what they were doing, and they knew that they wouldn't be busted for it. Um, so there's these huge versions of regular animals, but they were very rare versions, and they were kind of like animals you've never seen before, but they're similar or akin to species that exist. One looked like a huge black lion with a gray mane, but it was like really it was like 3 times the size of a normal lion. And there was a beautiful big quarter horse, the most beautiful, biggest one you've ever seen. And then there's this beautiful white horse, and its fur was glowing. It's very beautiful. These all kind of represented. They seem like they're so pronounced that they had the word majestic. Like if you took the word majestic and put it into an animal form, that's what it looked like. It looked like the word noble. If you take it noble and make it into an animal, innocent, pure, and it was like what the white horse represented for me. Um, Something like this. And what people were doing was, even though these animals were very, they weren't really held down by anything. They weren't kept in chains. They were kind of this thin rope around their neck, very thin, almost like looked like thread compared to how big they were, was around them. But they could have escaped at any time. They could have hurt anybody they wished, but they refrained and they contained their anger. And you could tell they growl every time, people would laugh and take video of themselves, mocking the animal, pulling at the animal's, face or hair or eyes and I think there's just this deep truth. I can't explain what it is, but there's something about the way the people acted that said to me they didn't fear judgment. They had a pride and a happiness and a joy. They liked coming together to, like with the quarter horse, when I saw it, it was on the ground and they were all gathered, taking turns, poking a knife into it, and it would cry and they'd laugh and they'd, oh my gosh, it's just so great to hear this animal crying. And then it was in lots and lots of pain. And it wasn't, the animal crying was hard, but I think what really got me as I really thought about this was the joy people took in doing this. Somehow, someway, they became very spooked. I don't know why or how, but the people just decided they're kind of frightened by something. I can't tell you what it was, but they just started running off, even though they had a lot of pride and happiness in what they were doing. They decided to just scatter, and all of a sudden they were gone. And when they left, as everybody's running off, one of the things that escaped right before they were running off, if I remember correctly, was this white horse. And that kind of signals something, like it got spooked and they had stabbed it in its like upper thigh. And as it got spooked and started leaving, all of them got spooked and left. All the people, like they were like animals, like this one horse that got away. The other animals couldn't get away because they were heavily injured and dying. maybe, you know, I there's something that's so, I know dreams feel real to everybody, and I've always been highly annoyed by dreams because they're so symbolic and meaningful to you, but they mean nothing to anybody else. That's why I like to try to be very careful about what I'm describing the feeling, because sometimes the words describing a picture doesn't give you the whole feeling behind the image. It just like editing a movie, if you edit it, just like when you put a comma in the wrong place, it changes the whole meaning of a sentence. The editing, the way in which you interpret it as you were in the dream itself, the fact that I felt no fear from these people, I should have been afraid of them. I was left feeling kind of unsettled about the dream, but it reminds me a lot of Jesus. You know, he's the maker of the universe, he's the one who came down from heaven, securely seated wherever he was seated, and probably at the right hand of the Father. I mean, I don't know theologically. I mean, he had a lot of power. We know because it's in the he's in the book of Genesis. But anyhow, um, he's one of the three, meaning that like he's an expression of God. I don't even want to go into the Trinity, but here's the point. He refrained and restrained himself, and you could tell it took everything in these creatures to not, especially like a quarter horse, and not just get up and run, or not fight for itself, or it just felt haunting. And it reminded me a little bit of the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, and how when we wrestle with God, we kind of end up being like the little bit like the white horse, where we're gonna walk a little bit with a limp, you know, as people who, with the Holy Spirit, are trained and willing to walk in the way that God has told us, and the Holy Spirit we're allowing to into our life to sanctify us. And yeah, it's painful, and yeah, it's, you know, a thorn in the lion's paw. It's not the funnest, but compared to what we deserve. Because what I was feeling in that dream was human beings and the human nature is just so despicable. It's so twisted, especially in the time I am in my life where I'm confused about certain things, you know, in my own personal life, having to do with relationships with people, and the fact that I've been, you know, financially independent, and I've been, you know, on my own for a while, and to face the complexity that comes with relationships and people, between people, um, having to face all that and all the things within myself, the things that I'm wrestling, the things that I'm fighting. Maybe that's what it's representing. Maybe I'm just a bit unsettled by something that's happening in my life. Maybe I feel like there's things that are out of control, that regardless of what I do or what I say, I'm always kind of in the same position and unable to move. Maybe it really is just a representation of Jesus Christ. I honestly don't know. I thought I'd share it because it is the last day of the Jewish Passover, and I do allow those days to have some symbolism over my life, because be they can have real meaning because Jesus is Jewish. And so if they have the real calendar, the Jewish calendar, then I'm going to honor that. So that's what I'm trying to do. I honored the Christian one too, but I just don't know what it means. So that's why I put it out. And if you maybe had a similar dream, maybe we're syncing up as Christians, and maybe it has something to do with the, you know, tornadoes that are ripping through the middle of our country. Maybe it has to do with the white horse that had blood all over its chest, or the dark horse that was running through London. On TikTok, look up the horses running through London. It's crazy. Um, it could be a lot of things. Maybe there just feels like there's a lot of things in my life I don't feel I have full control over. Maybe it's a victim complex. It could be a lot of things. It could be from my ego. It could be from not God. That's why you always got to test all things with the Holy Spirit. And yeah. So this is Linda of Christ is King Forever. May God be with you.